Good morning, LinkedIn friends. Welcome to day 4 of our Value First Framework exploration series. I'm Chris Carolyn, and today we're diving into something that affects, I think, every single person creating content for business, the lead magnet trap. I'm joined by Madelyn Donovan, who brings incredible expertise in content strategy and has seen firsthand how the industrial age approach, literally from like industrial manufacturing companies, uh, that approach to content creates mounting friction despite everyone's best intentions. How are you doing today, Madeline?
Good, good. I'm excited to talk about this. How
Yeah,
you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Also, very exciting to reintroduce this series with the help of pros like yourself. Um, So let's start with something that I bet resonates with you just a little bit. Uh, that moment when you realize the content strategy has become more about extracting information from people than actually helping them. I'm guessing you've seen this before.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, with industrial manufacturing, this is very close to heart. Um, like industrial manufacturing and these like blue collar jobs, these detail oriented engineers and content just doesn't really jive for like that word doesn't jive with them. So yeah, seen a little bit on this topic myself for sure.
Yeah, and there's a tension that it creates because we know that those are the people that can actually help, like the customers, the prospects, the buyers, however you want to. Like, and they're actually very good at that once they get into like a live conversation, right?
Yeah.
But it creates this tension between wanting to help and the need to generate leads, right? And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Because
Yeah.
here's what I've discovered: um, it's when we treat knowledge as bait, which is what we do, instead of genuine value. Both sides lose. Um, so we're going to try and help you recognize what this trap looks like today, and it should resonate with most, I think. And if it does, hopefully you can get some language from this session to help you start talking about this internally in meaningful and productive ways. Because it started from a place that makes sense, reasonable business logic. Pre-digital, sharing expertise happened naturally through articles, speaking, publications, in-person events, right? But as digital marketing evolved, we kind of encoded scarcity thinking into our content systems.
Yeah. Yeah. My mind's going in like three different directions with
Whichever way you want to go.
yeah. Um so it's like especially because when you think about like the email transformation, like digital transformation with email was obviously revolutionary to say the least, because it gave you a way to get into contact with people. And that's not really how we use it today. Um, and like email's always going to be essential. Like I don't think email marketing will ever go away. I think it's still always going to be huge. But I saw someone post on LinkedIn yesterday. I can't remember who it was, or I would shout them out. But um, someone said the contacts in your CRM are worth so much more than the contacts that aren't in your CRM. And so, like, I think we've definitely lost that, like, email as a communication tool to stay in touch with everyone rather than just a way to unlock the potential of gaining business from someone. Um, anyways, that's just one piece. But yeah, we take that email address as like the golden ticket to a potential new deal in your CRM. Um, and that's just a slippery slope to go down. Because when you treat content like a bartering tool for an email address, then there's all kinds of bad reasons for that, but like you're attributing worth to this person based on their email, but then you're also attributing worth to your content, and then that leads to bad content, like objectively. um, or you try to justify it by gating it. um, that's just not a good way to start your customer's experience with your brand. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a lot, but
No, it's right on. Because I remember learning about the Ask You Answer in 2017, and StoryBrand for that matter, where it's like, and working inside of industrial manufacturing, like the concept of needing to give you an email address to download your brochure,
right,
right? Like literally the products that you're looking for information about, and you will not move forward with unless you learn about them.
right,
I can't just freely, I can't freely access it as a buyer, but also as a business. Like, why would you want to keep that from them, right? And it's this scarcity mindset that I've seen as like it's really the difference between industrial age thinking and the age of AI. And that's the whole purpose of Value First, is to try and help people move in that direction. Like, because the scarcity mindset literally fights against how knowledge actually works, right? It's knowledge, when it multiplies, when it gets shared, it multiplies in natural ways. Like it doesn't go away, right? But our systems are built around information hoarding, right?
yeah. Well, and I think too, companies, whenever they rely on gated content, they assume that if someone really wants this, they'll fill out the form, which and they assume if they don't want this, then maybe they're not our target audience, or the content's not good enough. But that's not really like, especially for this industrial manufacturing, like engineering, scientists, like these people don't, it's not just that they don't want to give you their email. It's like they are looking for information right now. Like they have a very specific question. Um, they typed in Google, if they typed in Google like, I need the answer to this, and I already tried this, and I have this specific requirement. Like this cannot be part of the answer. They're looking for that answer right now. And if you can provide that answer right now, you are instant, like your credibility is through the roof. And they're like, man, I need to talk to these people. They obviously have way more answers than this. Like, I need to get in front of this. Um, but you don't even have that chance if you're gating content. Like, I guarantee they're immediately Xing out of the page, or they're never clicking on your page to begin with because they know it's a landing page. Um,
And they know what happens when they give their email address to you,
Yeah, or
right?
they just know it's gonna be bad content because of this, like, they don't want that, they want, like, real real resources, and if they don't already have it within their, like, existing archaic systems of resources, and if their coworker hasn't told them about some other solution that works for their coworker, so they inherently trust that, and then they're looking for something, like, you need to be super credible because you're competing with their you're competing with all of the stuff that they already trust, and they're not going to trust that form. So
Yeah. Um, and so we're gonna take you through what we've come up with a need assessment. So NEED, to help you understand exactly, mainly like how the trap works, like how to label it and talk about it effectively. Because we get it, like it's the way it's always been done. All of our systems are put in place to measure this flow of activity. So it's very hard. And again, the point of value first is to kind of help you change the paradigm. And need is a framework that can help you kind of understand how to make the shift from where you are right now into how you can measure your transformation, right? So need stands for, the N, we have natural. E, first E is enhanced, second E is elevated, and the D is for distributed, right? So we're going to run through that. And the first one, natural discovery versus artificial barriers. So the first sign of the trap is when your content processes, including distribution, right, require audiences to adapt to your lead generation workflows, which is when you ask for the email address for everything, right? It's to get them as a lead in the system. Focusing on that instead of enabling natural discovery around their actual information needs. So, Madelyn, when somebody's researching a challenge, what does that natural discovery actually look like?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I hit on this a little bit already, but like in the technical space for sure, it's what they already know, what they already trust. They're gonna pull out their giant PDF workbook that's sitting in their, cabinet drawer at their desk. Or they know that like their supervisor has a random binder in this random cabinet that's covered in dust. They're gonna pull that out. But if they don't think of that or if they can't find it there, they're like I said, they're going to talk to who they trust. They're going to look to their coworkers, they're going to look to whatever partners or even competitors they know what they do. And if that doesn't work, yeah, they're going to research. Um, but that's different for everyone. And that's something that like marketers especially have learned a lot over the past few years, of course, um, with like tracking people. It's not predictable how many touch points or which touch points in what order are going to lead to a lead. Like you can't predict it. And so the answer is you never know. That's the problem is like you just kind of have to let people do it the way that they're going to do it, and the only way to enable that is to have all of the information that you're comfortable providing readily available. So
Right. Because it's all on their terms. We don't have any control over their consumption habits. We might have a great understanding of where they are and how they spend their time, but the moods change. Like there's so many reasons that people do or don't click on things that are out of our control because it's all self-directed.
right.
Like, right, it follows curiosity. Like natural discovery shouldn't have to explain like that part, but it become like what we've created is very unnatural discovery because I've got to click here and then I've got to give you this information, and then maybe I could download it. Maybe I got to go back to my email to go get it, right? And then I've got inbound calls, right, and emails after that. So literally, it's fighting against the natural way that humans learn, right? Um, and like Madeline said, like when you create that conflict, they just don't show up. Like they don't have time for that. They don't like it. They know the agenda, right? The jig is up. Literally, we've been doing this for years, and hopefully, we're helping you identify some ways to break free from that. Um, for enhanced, we have enhanced capability, versus dependency creation, right? So the second indicator, trapped content creates dependency rather than building audience capability. Now, I'd love your perspective on this because this is always a challenge, especially in the technical spaces. And mind you, this value first applies to all spaces. I think it's industrial age. We just happen to have
Yeah.
experience with industrial where it's
Happens to
very
be
easy
like
to
a
find,
really strong example. Yeah.
right? And I was actually surprised when I came over into SaaS. Let's see, like most of the problems are like this everywhere. I thought it was like, oh, manufacturing just falling behind. It's like, no, these problems exist everywhere. And what we want to, like, when content requires people to keep coming back, for basic information, rather than enabling their independence to keep discovering, to keep sharing with others specifically, right?
Yeah.
What happens when we create that dependency?
Yeah. Well, it turns you off. Like you you don't want to do that first off. Like you're not super motivated to even start the process. Because again, you don't trust it. And um you might sense that it's a trap. You might like a great example is like, well, the most obvious example is when you do fill out a form, even if you do fill out the form, you know that you're going to get a message somewhere on some platform, or you're going to get a call, and you're not going to know who it is, but at some point some sales guy is going to reach out and they're going to say like, hey, I saw that you downloaded that. You're already on alert. You're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have downloaded that. Like you just want space to figure this out. And like it's also like it kind of breaks your, it feels like you're not being respected in a way. Like, do they not think I can figure this out on my own? Like, what if I know more than them? What if I can do this better than them? And obviously that's like a whole, that's kind of like a tangent, but like, um, yeah, it just gives you a bad taste in your mouth. And even if you do like depend on them for that, um, it's just not sustainable. Like, you're not going to grow. You're probably not a super valuable customer for them because you're just kind of, I don't know, kinder way to say it, but you're kind of like leeching on them. Like you're not growing. You're not connecting with other people and bringing those other people back to the company as new leads. Like you're not being a good, you're not able to talk about how great it was that this company truly enabled you. Like a lot of companies like to say, they love to use the word enabled. You see that everywhere. Like we enable business owners to do XYZ, but like, do they really? So
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you went there, because this is where it ties to like customer lifetime value and like customers that get complained about, like by companies when they look at their margins. When
yeah,
you start off the relationship in a
yep,
dependent kind of way, guess what? They depend on you for everything throughout the whole process, and it
yeah,
takes more resource to, give the value to that customer, like you say, and they're not in a place where they can become the champion, right? Or champion it internally like is
right,
needed, so that there is less training needs, there is less, work to actually enable, because they're like signed up for that part, right? And when you start off from that place, like it's often like maybe that's not the best fit customer for where the company wants to go. So excellent point there. Let's talk about elevated innovation versus optimization limits. And this is kind of a recurring theme, like industrial age optimization is a constant suggestion, right? If we're not optimizing what we're doing, when in reality, we never take a step back to say, like, is the thing we're optimizing even working? Like, why are we trying to optimize something that's broken instead of transforming, right? So the third indicator, when content focuses on optimizing information consumption, mm, rather than enabling breakthrough thinking. Oh man, that could be Let's Build in a nutshell. But have
yeah.
you seen examples where generous content sharing led to innovations that wouldn't have happened otherwise?
Yeah, well, I mean, like the entire what's it called? Like fair use, like copyright law is like the example of this for like all of society. Um, but also like for example, in content creation specifically, if you have images of people that you're free to use to be able to spread like I don't know, like highlight reels or like um any type of like summary post or like you're basically able to act as an outside like PR team for this character or this like public figure. Like that's a obviously that's like the textbook example. Um but I mean, like you said, transforming like frameworks even like in the especially in the HubSpot space, in the marketing operations space, templates are our best friend, because we want repeatable processes. We want to standardize things and systematize things so that we can be efficient and be fair to our customers and be predictable and continually get better. Um, but sometimes that template can also be something that you can improve itself. And if you, rather than locking someone into using your template in your format, like embedded on your website, and you have to download the result like a calculator, you have to download the, I don't know, you have to access the result rather than just providing the Excel spreadsheet as a clonable Google Drive file. Like allowing people to mix and match and like just continually iterate on something. um, they're going to love the fact that you allowed them to do that, and they're going to talk about you in that light, knowing that like that was so cool that you gave them that ability.
Yeah. And they will do that as they share those resources.
Right.
Like, and that's where we talk about multiplication, right? And that's what social media is and should be when you think about it. And these gates everywhere, like whether it's licensing things or just, forms in front of everything, um, they prevent it, right? And now nobody's enabled. Uh, like even to the point of where it can't even share a link to it on social because you got to be signed in and
Yeah.
so
Oh
naturally,
yeah, that's a
right?
yeah, like news sites. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that kind of thing prevents the internal championship. Like, oh, and guess what? It doesn't actually stop anybody. If
Right.
they really want to share it, they're just screenshotting and like,
Yeah, or you scroll
doing
in the
screen
comments.
recordings.
Yeah, you scroll in the comments, you're like, okay, this is what it said. You don't have to click.
Right. So this is what we mean by lose lose. Like the information still gets shared, but probably in a worse way than
Mhm.
what you wanted it because you're making it unnaturally hard for people to do it, and you're not going to get like the ROI from those shares. Actually, like to the opposite in a lot of ways. And this leads right into the D here, distributed empowerment, right? Versus centralized control. So our last indicator, when content success requires ongoing creator management rather than enabling natural knowledge multiplication. Um, and this is like when SMEs get it and you just let them go with the message. Wow, it's so powerful. What have you seen in regards to just, really empowering others internally and externally? What tends to happen organically?
Yeah, it changes the game. Uh, I'll start with internally, I guess. Um, Content has to be a team-wide effort, because you don't know what your teammate knows. You don't have that expertise. You don't know. I always like to say, like, I have to be a fly on the wall sometimes in other people's meetings, if especially if I have no business being there, because I don't know how they talk. Not only do I not know what they talk about, I don't know how they talk. I don't know the words they use or how much they focus on one topic versus another or how collaborative it is. Um, so that difference in like profession and personality, enabling those people to create content or directly asking them to create content and providing the resources and the training to make them do that is like not only obviously a game changer, but like it's necessary now in today's day and age for marketing. But externally, like you have to give people what they need and like allow them to run with it because they're going to no matter what. Like you can't worry about like the rules in how someone's going to do something. You have to be comfortable with it. You know, you format it in a certain way if you want. You make sure um I always try to think of like if what could possibly go wrong with this. Think like that, but then set it loose and let people do what they're going to do with it. That's how like user generated content, that's what all of the B2C brands like they rely on that feeds their business. And I think B2B content hasn't caught up with that totally yet, like if at all. Um, so yeah, you have to not just trust that, like not just consider that as a channel, but kind of just like open yourself up to the possibilities of that, like the value of that. Like B2B doesn't think of that really. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
And a big reason for that is all the KPIs that we have in place, like lead
yeah,
counts and downloads and just
yeah.
all the stuff.
Yeah, it's
And
unpredictable. Yeah.
yeah, and as we wrap up, like this trap, recognition piece, like we all experience the diminishing returns on the way that we've always done it. Like none of this stuff is working anymore, right? Unless like just the amount of value you have to put into something, right? It's just getting higher and higher to have that expectation. Um, and so what we see, because we're still relying on these false solutions, right? Of um, more promotion, right? More sophisticated gating, like let's do a form flow, uh, so we can trick them to starting the process, and then maybe they'll finish it, and we'll get to ask all the questions. Um, and better lead magnets. Let's put more effort, more time into this thing that takes 3 months to create. Meanwhile, everybody's passing you by as they share on social openly and honestly, right? So we're here trying to show you a different way, a better way. I'm not going to hold back. Like it's a better way. And we've started to refer to it like a lot of this stuff has been known for years. Like there are companies who are really good at this, been doing this for a long time. Um, George B. Thomas comes to mind. Is always like I don't I haven't seen him get a lot of stuff. He's always sharing videos. Like it's just throwing it out there because he knows the value is going to come back. So value first content is how you break free. Um, and let's talk about that alternative and what that looks like for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like your content is naturally going to get better. It's going to be spread farther. It's going to be so much easier, not just to create, but like to maintain. Now you don't have to maintain your content over time. Um, but yeah, I would say like where do you think people should get started?
Well, let's first like imagine like that like we're at the end of this year and you've successfully transformed. It could happen that quickly. Like a part of the value of AI is that it can help you transform, very quickly. It just takes a mindset shift, right? So let's say you get to the end of the year and your company can say these things, right? So there's 7 commitments, 7 principles, right, of value first content, and I'll just run through them. So we will share our best thinking freely. We believe valuable knowledge multiplies when shared generously rather than hoarded strategically. Number 2, we will design for natural discovery. We believe people should find the information they need when they need it through natural search and exploration patterns. Number 3, we will enable rather than interrupt. We believe valuable content should feel like help arriving at the perfect moment, not interruption demanding attention. Number 4, we will measure transformation over transaction. We believe success comes from the change we create in people's lives and organizations, not just contacts captured or forms completed. Number 5, we will create connection through generosity. We believe trust develops through consistent value delivery without strings attached, building authentic relationships through genuine expertise sharing. Number 6, we will enable natural knowledge multiplication. We believe valuable insights grow stronger when shared, applied, and built upon by others. And number 7, we will integrate content into value delivery. We believe content should directly support customer success and collaborative achievement rather than existing separately from actual value creation. And that last one, to put in perspective and why content strategy can be a challenge, is content supports the whole damn journey, folks. It's not just like a marketing activity that's just over in the corner, right? It supports the whole journey, and internally and externally, right? So integrating this content mindset right away, if you can take that step, you're farther ahead than most, people that have kind of suffered from this. Any thoughts there? Which ones resonated with you the most?
Yeah, I think like creating connection through generosity stands out for me so much. Because like honestly, that's just like a fundamental belief of mine anyways, like just as a human. Like especially like with business specifically, I think I always truly admire when people say like we don't have any competitors. We just have community, or like they're so big on referrals. If something just isn't a good fit for them, maybe it's a good fit for this other company, or like not having any exclusions for events that people should come to, like not being afraid to just be open, share with like your community at large. So I think creating connection through generosity, like just inherently, it's so much simpler. Like, of course, it's going to be better for your business. It's going to be better for your content and your results. But like, it just lifts such a weight off your shoulders to not have to think about any of those limitations.
Yeah. And like just answer the question, like, am I doing this to build trust, or am I doing it for an internal metric?
Yeah.
Right. And like, because all of this generosity, let's say in the commitment that you mentioned, it starts the relationship from a place of trust and value, right? Instead of extraction, like, give me your information, give me your time. Like, you don't get what you want, and you are not helped. You don't get any value until you give me something, like the business or the salesperson or the marketer, right? Relationships just, they don't work out when they start that way. They might give you the initial sale, but those are the customers that turn into like the worst, profitability, without loyalty. And it's not a good investment of time. Like, and like the things we like to highlight, but one of the reasons people don't take this approach is like, oh, what if they read it without our help and they decide they're not a fit, right? Or like this fit conversation. Like we need to be okay with people opting out because they're probably not a great fit. And it would have cost us way more money and time and effort to get to close lost anyways. So there's just so much value. Like you said, that's kind of the easier part that we're talking about. There's so much administration
Yeah.
and setup required to make this whole lead gating management system work. But we get it. You still need pipeline, right? You still need access to human beings that want to invest in a relationship with you. So for somebody listening that clearly has these KPIs, like they have goals, they need to build pipeline, right? What is your recommended first step for them?
I would say, specifically about building pipeline. First of all, what does your pipeline look like? And I don't mean the numbers, I don't mean the revenue, I mean like how is it designed? And are the stages like things that you think you have to control, or are they things that people can move themselves through? So are they like, do you have exit stage criteria that is dependent on that person's actions rather than you reaching out or you having to force an answer out of them? Like, are they willingly participating? Then that's a pretty good sign. They're probably going to move through the pipeline really fast. Um, but if they're not, maybe that's where they are in the pipeline. Maybe they shouldn't be moving through it. Um, but then, like, in terms of things to generate revenue for the pipeline and tactics, things that you can actually do and control, I would just say in terms of content, in terms of marketing efforts, sales efforts, like I always like to think like, what are the brands that give me a fuzzy feeling in my chest when I think of them? For me, right now, it's Ben and Jerry's ice cream, because I know that I think about how cool I think like the owners are, how they display their core values on all of their cups, how I like their ice cream, sure, but like like you want to be a brand that people feel good about and remember just off the top of their head. You don't want to have to go to them. So, what is content? What are marketing efforts, sales efforts that can make you give people that experience rather than bothering them?
Yeah, that experience. Oh man, and this is where it's hard for the marketers sometimes to like get the rest of the organization on board. Like the product is the experience, right? And once you can shift to that mindset, all of this stuff starts to make way more sense because that's what we're bringing people into. That's the value that, like, it's an experience that needs to provide value. And you might have some really high value piece of content, like currently behind a gate, release it. Like, and just look for different metrics, right? Sharing patterns, depth of engagement, like started referring to these as key value indicators instead of, process indicators, because that's what we're tracking here, natural advocacy. And it's more work. Like our systems aren't set up. This is the dark funnel, dark social, whatever you want to call it. But people are giving you signals all over the place when you're giving them value, right? Um, and all this is an effort to like expand that just collaborative, access to your brand, right? Which is what all like value first is so focused on. Like we can't do all this alone. We try to keep it all in silos and on teams and all this stuff. And AI is not having it, folks. Like it's moving fast. It's not going to slow down. Businesses that are stuck in industrial age mindsets are not, it's hard to move faster, and we get it, right? But there are companies and startups, especially, that start from scratch. They don't have all these systems and processes the way we've always done it in place. And this stuff just doesn't make sense to them when you put it in front. Like, no, I operate on social. Like, I just share stuff. I don't want to Like what? Then I'm there to engage in the comments, and that's where the conversations start, right? That's the lead gen, right? And it becomes much easier to do that when you have quality content to answer in those comments. That's one of my favorite things. And I'll wrap up here that most people don't understand about the LinkedIn Lives and all the shows that I've done, right? Because it's, LinkedIn metrics, especially for videos, are not great, right? But we know there's a bunch of lurkers out there. But when I always have a video to share in response to almost any HubSpot question that comes up, immediate trust, right? And that's what we can enable because your SMEs are exactly the same. That's why they win deals, right? Once they get in the door, this is bringing the SMEs outside of the door, right? And it's as simple as that. Madelyn, this has been an awesome conversation today. Let's leave people with one recognition that you hope that they'll carry forward.
Yeah, honestly, I want to just hit on what you just said. How can we get the SMEs out the door? How can you get that sentiment, that knowledge, how can you get them to be your content, to be like your content? How can you make your content like them? And how can you get them to be your content? That's like I think that's the core first step.
Yep. Because they are the content during the sales process.
Right.
Right. And they're very good at that.
Yes.
And enabling that is a very powerful thing. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Tomorrow, we're exploring the managed services trap with Aaron Wiggers. Maybe my favorite pillar, just because how insidious managed services can be and everything that it means in regards to dependency and how the way things are done and how people make money. And it'll be a fun one. So we're hitting on that tomorrow. Until then, here's your challenge. Identify one piece of valuable knowledge you're currently gating and imagine what would happen if you shared it generously instead. And then once you imagine it, go do it, right? And measure those possibilities. Thanks for joining us, Madelyn. And thank you for this fantastic conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.